heads up that we're going to be here and the link to it. I know there's going to be a couple boomers that haven't quite figured out Twitch, but that's fine. If you still can't catch it, we'll just put it out on Sunday because Twitch says after 24 hours, you're allowed to do whatever you want with it. So I guess I already did the hi, how's it going, Carl thing, whatever. I don't think either of us feel like drinking this morning, do we?
Oh, yeah. I'm already starting a gin tonic here and everything.
Oh, that's right. You're on some kind of random time zone. You're on Zulu time right now. I'll do that. I think that's the most like generic non-location giving away statement you can make.
King in Wakanda, man. King in Wakanda.
Kenyan Wakanda. All right. So I guess we can do the topic here. We were talking before, you, me, and Corey, and I hope Corey knows that invite was for him if he wanted to show up too. But you guys were talking about patience, but I kind of caught it halfway through. So what do you mean with patience and guys having it early on and later on?
Well, for me, it was more about like delayed gratification, having an understanding of how long something will take, understanding the idea of putting in time consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think men get better with that as we get older. Like, it's kind of like the same thing with risk. Like, when you're 18, you'll take whatever risk there is. When you're 28, you dial it back a bit. When you're 38, you dial it back more. And when you're 78, you don't even want to drive that much anymore.
I don't want to drive that much now. Now, I get that. I guess we can... I'm not going to lie, though. I know... So many words without saying anything, I know. With this space, you kind of see like a microcosm of that. And I think it's absolutely fascinating. Like, how many brands have we watched that would rather... just dunk all over Rolo for being God knows what insecurities they have about themselves and they want to project onto them, as opposed to just doing like what you did. How many essays were you up to now? 180, 170, about $2,000 a piece, plus two books?
Something like that. Yeah, something like that.
But that's the point. There's no glory in like, I did another post this week, doing that every week. It's kind of a slog.
No, but it was something like I talked to Mike Cernovich because he had a thing when he was a lot smaller and hadn't quite lost his mind.
Yeah.
where he'd open up his DMs. And that was like right after I started my site. And I was just like, okay, how do I go about building this? And he said, like, first year, just write. That's all you need to do. Don't focus on building a social media following. Don't really focus that much on branding. Just focus on writing.
All right.
And it's useful because like it helps you find your voice very early on. You get into the habit of writing consistently. It's I'm not sure. I think you referenced like the Stephen King, George R.R. Martin conversation where they talked.
Yeah, it made me laugh when I heard it.
And it's kind of the same thing because if you sit down and you work to write something will come out. For me, it was more like I felt like I was starting to repeat myself.
And that was when you knew, like, that's when you knew it was done? The book was done, or?
No, like with writing in general. It was just, for me, it's like when I start repeating myself, I tend to know that, okay, I've written all I can write on this topic.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. Yeah, because you have slowed down a bit lately.
I've slowed down a lot. I haven't I post like once every 6 months now versus once to twice a week.
I mean, but at the same time, I remember, what was it you were doing? It was like you wanted 52 notches in a year. So you had to have like a regimented schedule. You were writing everything down. You basically became Skittles man and spreadsheet man at once, which I still find hilarious. And I'm waiting for like there's going to be some book, like a systematic overview of dating within and add like a bunch of jargon at the end of it. Fucking.
Well, for me, it was just with, a lot of it had to do with, I hate being regimented and scheduled. That's one of the worst things. And everyone in my real life gets at me like, you're so regimented, you're so organized, you're so scheduled. And I'm like, I'm not really. I force myself to do it to an extent on the areas that other people see.
Right.
Because
so why only that? Why only those places then? Because I'm going to take on this after. I'm curious.
Well, just because I think you have a certain, let's say, think of an energy bar in a video game or something.
Right.
You have a certain amount of resources you can use for different things. Mm-hmm. And then you also have certain traits or abilities that function within like a certain set. So the analytical side functions very well within the regimented and organized thing for the most part, but the creative side doesn't.
Right.
That's why
Well,
like accountants are usually the most boring cunts you can ever find. What's the rules on cursing on Twitch, by the way?
I don't know, to be honest. I thought it was like I'm just using the same YouTube rules. The channel's so new. If I get struck down, it's not going to cost me anything anyway. So now's our experimenting time.
Well, that's Pog, man. I'm even adding some Twitch lingo to this just for fun.
But yeah, it's a different beast. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of like it. So I figured it was a good chance to get these guys. I don't know we did it, and we'll get the podcast talking. So yeah, regimenting. Here's the thing for me though. For me, like I regiment in private, but I'll do some Jordan Peterson speaker, but I'm like chaos in public. So like for example, if my girl's off on a business trip, she's flying off to Montreal for a couple days. Laundry gets done, ironed, folded. My day is regimented to the point where I don't have to think. I can just go through the motions. So then obviously if I want to create something, that's easy because I haven't made any decisions today. Everything's running on autopilot, so all my decisions can focus on that. But if I like go out to dinner with her or a social engagement with other people, then I just kind of realize that I'm not going to be able to stay regimented around other people because they're just not going to follow along, and I just kind of wing it.
Yeah,
So like
that's
externally, I look just brutal, but internally it works. I think. At least I think it works. I don't know. My kitchen's a little bit messy right now, so maybe I'm just fluffing myself for the sake of it.
Hey, Scarecrow Gimp, Ryan is not going to be in a onesie and have cat ear headphones for this one. That's for his OnlyFans later.
Oh, dude, how does he know about that? Actually, I think this guy is from Twitch. He's not from the show. You're new. Welcome to the channel anyway. Yeah, we're kind of autism free here. I know you're goofing around. I'll just let you know in advance. Some of the audience is going to be rather savage.
Well,
By the way,
I just think this is kind of funny because
Yeah.
you're basically going on Twitch, which could be fairly savage and is known for a lot of thottery.
yeah.
And I'm just kind of waiting for the watch this next after this show, and it's going to be some chick in a bikini playing COD or something.
Dude, I've streamed more on Twitch than I've watched on Twitch. I've just started watching it now. There's like two channels I watch. There's the guy we see on Twitter, drink a beer, play a game. They're kind of cool. And then this other guy that talks about the business side of it. But that's it so far, so I'm getting into it. I feel bad too. Like a lot of guys are mad. They're like, I had to install Twitch for this. God damn it. Don't you guys, you could have just gone to the website. I don't think you have to install the app to run it. But I appreciate
No, I'm on the website.
Yeah.
I haven't even signed up to Twitch yet on this account, just because like I was trying to find the password for one of the burner emails so I could just install with that one.
Oh, then you get the password from the burner email from your master password of the other burner phone. Then you're able to get access to it. Of course, you threw that one out 3 months ago, so you're pretty much screwed right now.
Oh, I still have the SIM cards. I just take them out of the phone. You can't trace a SIM card.
Fair enough. All right, guys. Here's a question for the chat. Out of the odds between 1 and 100%, what do you think are the odds are that Carl either shaves or like otherwise obfuscates his fingerprints? I'm gonna guess he works with sandpaper every now and again, just to keep it safe.
Well, fun fact: you know the easiest way to obscure your fingerprints?
Wear gloves.
Glue.
Oh yeah, glue.
Just
Elmer's
use
glue.
on them.
Yeah, Elmer's
that's the
glue
best
because
one.
it sticks to it, and then you can just peel it off afterwards.
Yeah, and like the biggest issue though is like a lot of the computers now are delivered with biometrics, so you actually need to have your fingerprints non-obfuscated.
Oh, that's the new one where they have it on the touchpad, right?
Yeah.
Because I know there's the webcam face one, but I'm getting like chain smoking voice going on right now. But everybody, like, I don't know of anybody who keeps their webcam open right now. Like, I got a giant sticker on it. I'm not letting Zuckerberg, watch me staring at the screen all day. I don't know what he's going to do with that information.
I just don't have a webcam attached to. Whenever I can choose not to have an external webcam, I'll have an external webcam.
Do they even make laptops like that anymore?
Not laptops, but desktop. I prefer working on desktops still.
Yeah, I do. It's hard though. We got to move. What the hell? Ryan is deep throat. I guess we're talking like low-key spy stuff. So the patience thing, back to that topic here. I guess for you guys, the topic, and there was a kind of a secondary topic I was adding on to this, where I was noticing that there's a large group of like the most popular guys in the sphere, and they have that Steve the Dean approach where you berate them like you're a drill sergeant in Full Metal Jacket. All right, cupcakes, man up and stop, blah blah blah, and just cut this crap out. And I was just like, this is exactly the kind of stuff a guy's middle-aged wife's soccer mom would be doing to him, berating him constantly for being less of a man and then telling him to man up. And I'm just like, we deserve a better class of coach. I really do. And I was thinking that has to do with the patience thing. Because I bet you and Carl, I want to hear your take on this. If you sit here and berate the guys, call them cupcakes, call them a bundle of sticks, and then just tell them to man up, they're probably going to like you for it. It's like a big cheerleading squad, as opposed to giving them advice and put the onus on them. One's going to be a very patient and slow burn, and the other one's going to be a quick surge of followers. That's my guess, but I don't know for sure. What do you think?
My take has always been like it's about the business model, right? Because if you're doing the slow burn, methodical working with someone, that's less profitable than having a standardized form of advice that you just churn people through. One is a focus on actually doing the work. The other one's a focus on sales and marketing. I think that's what we saw early on when they had like the massive, I should probably not say spurg out on Twitch, man.
Oh, do they really have like a thing about that?
No.
Oh, because I know they have a language filter for whammon, like literally spelling it whammon. They're like, no, can't do that. I'm like, what the hell?
I have no idea, man. This is my first broadcast ever on Twitch.
Well, it's my first. I think it's my second just chatting. I've made Madeleines. I've played Factorio, Minecraft, and Mega Man 2 so far. So I'm still learning this myself.
Considering the fact that one of the biggest streamers on here just got knocked out for being a creepy-ass rapist, well, I don't think the platform has any high ground to work from right now.
True. Oh, is that what it was? They finally let the rumors out, or?
No, the info finally leaked out about the couple of dudes in the gaming community. They were not patient enough with women, ironically.
Patience. Well, the business model thing. So the business model, you turn them through. Do you think then for just doing the content is forever going to be doomed as a niche thing? While the I watched Full Metal Jacket last night, I know how to be a drill sergeant thing today. Like, is that always going to shadow over it and be the bigger thing because it's just easier from a marketing perspective?
Oh, it's also it appeals more to the guys who are right in their anger phase and they've just found this place. And there was a study or something that said like the people who talk the most and the loudest in meetings are perceived as the most intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that approach. Like the whole reason why I did my entire site was just for fun, and then it could be used as kind of a jump off point for something else. Like if I were to put out like the Carl course, how to beat the crap out of your liver in 12 easy steps.
I was wondering, I'm like, what are you going to teach them? How to hide your identity from the cops, or how to hide your identity from ex-wives, how to survive a stabbing. What are some other good ones? How to write and not act like a complete tard on the internet. $4.97.
Drunk tweeting 101.
Ooh, actually, that one, that one would be a course. You're the only guy I know who can get drunk and tweet and not look up, go the next morning and be like, I got to delete all of this stuff. I think I name dropped like 5 drunken tweeters on that one too. Oh. There we go. Oh, we lost you a bit, Carl.
I was actually kind of curious. No, I was actually kind of curious what I tweeted last night, but it looks to be mostly sensible stuff.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't think you were even drinking last night. Usually, I can always tell when you're drinking because you end your sentences with these motherfuckers. That's everyone. Yeah, so here's and
no, the only thing I did, I was trying to trigger some Trump tards yesterday, but it doesn't look like it worked that well. They must have been out. Maybe they're all dead from Corona. We can hope.
Oh, whatever. That's their problems, their business. I just join it for the entertainment factor. Although, I know we got our own problems right now, but that's a politics thing. That's the thing. So I'm thinking from like an individual perspective. You got the guy who's not very patient and he's not willing to put in the work. And I get it. Like in the military, we had that too. When you first get on your ship or you're the brand new guy, you're just gung ho, ready to go. Everybody kind of tells you to slow down and pace yourself or you're burnout. So the guy's like, whatever, old man, I know what I'm doing. You're just old and lazy and fat. And then after 6 months of that, you burn out and you're like, oh, okay, I see what he means now. And then you kind of slow down and find a pace. I'm trying to think then, is there any way to streamline that process, or is it something a guy has to learn the hard way?
I think it could go both ways, but I think everyone needs to learn kind of their break point with doing work.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone has that break point. Some people, and it has to do with the type of work too. Like I know a couple of guys who are like, if they're doing boring ass shit, they can just kind of turn their brain off and just kind of churn through it 20 hours a day, no problem.
Right.
It doesn't affect them at all. I do that for 2 days and I want to kill myself.
I'm part of the stir crazy camp too. It's almost like you want to screw it up so you can fix it or something to do.
So other people, they're more like, if they're working with something creative, there's no problem for them to go 20 hours a day. But if they're working on something standard, they just have to do like 2 hours a day or they crack. And I think that patience is lacking in most of the people who come here, and I think that's why that business model developed. Because I would guess like the average dude comes into the space, stays for 3 to 6 months, then takes off.
We can only hope.
And, well, not necessarily takes off because they have fixed all their problems and they're better now.
No, they're just on to the next
More like
shiny
they
thing.
took off. Yeah, they go to something else or they do whatever. So that business model is kind of like, let's say you have someone who does a course and it's 12 months for $199 or $299 or $399 or whatever.
Gotta have a 7. That's like what's that, Ben whatever? They say you have to add 7s because that encourages people to buy. It's like almost like Chinese witchery where you have to have a 4 in something or a 6.
So let's say you can get all these guys to sign up for your 1 year thing, and
Right.
you know most of them are going to be gone in like 3 months. That means you can constantly churn more and more people into that. So you promise them personal time, because most courses do is like, oh, you have personal access to me and my knowledge. What do you know exactly? You dropped out of high school. But anyway, so I think that business model makes sense if you're on the grift. I think it doesn't make sense if you're legit trying to help people improve.
Which makes sense. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I keep thinking back to when Illimitable Man had his... Anyway, I'm cutting you off. I'll finish it in a minute.
Well, think about the gym, man. Like, think about the gym on the 3rd of January. And then think about the gym on the 3rd of December. They're two different gyms, man.
That is true. My least favorite time in the gym is that first 6 weeks after January. And it's not just because it's full and packed. I don't mind if it's packed. It's that the people don't know any of the gym etiquette. It's got that eternal September vibe to it. Guys will leave their protein shake on the one squat rack there as like holding it. And you're just like, I don't want to be that guy that's just swatting things off. And I can't find him in the crowd to let him know I'm going to use the squat rack in between.
No, it's kind of my thing when I went back to the gym again when they started reopening. Can I trust these fuckers to actually clean up after themselves? So I actually cleaned the equipment before and after.
There we go. There's that systemization, Carl. So back. So I'm thinking, you talk about it before, and I've talked about it before, that monetization of the Manosphere post from Illimitable Man. That was like the last time I talked to him. And he was saying it himself. He doesn't like that money's going to corrupt the space. And I took the attitude, well, if it's going to do that regardless. As soon as you make something, if it's good, it's going to bring these kind of people in. So the question isn't how do you stop it? It's what do you do once it's there? Same as like, sleeping with chicks. Oh, the Twinder's here and the 19th Amendment and all the other MGTOW talking points. I always take the attitude of, okay, there's your landscape. What do you do with it? And I guess this last 2 years with all of us has been kind of a bit of an experiment on that. But I'm wondering then, like, is this the best way to go? Is this slow and steady burn, make a niche, carve some things, the good thing? Or are you just grooming the next group of grifters to come in and be like, all right, now we're going to have full self-actualization courses, $397.
Well, I think the whole point in doing the slow burn thing is that you build enough people with enough credibility to kneecap the next generation of grifters.
Which would be nice.
Because the biggest issue we had just came down to the fact that there is no ladder to pull up. And if you can't pull up the ladder, then you can't keep undesirable elements out. I think the argument I had, I compared it to was like, if you want to get into a college, you have to finish high school. You want to go to grad school, you have to have a bachelor's. Want to do a doctorate, you generally always need a master's, or like a 4-year bachelor's if you're in England. I'm not sure how that works in the States.
I think it's probably
the whole point of that is it's not necessarily to keep people out, it's to make sure that the people who are coming in actually have the background knowledge that you need them to have.
Is it background knowledge or is it investment? Because that's what I was thinking.
I think it's a mix of both. I think investment is a good point. Like, you want them to be invested in the area that they're studying and in the system and everything. But I think more than anything, it's about ensuring that the people who are going to do the next generation's research are actually competent to do the next generation's research. Because I think social science has proven that they're not.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was thinking it might be more of a signaling thing, might be more of like an investment thing as opposed to a knowledge thing. Like, I'll use a military example. Canada has a couple branches of as close to what you could call special forces. We have the Army. They're any trade required, but it's essentially the Army has JTF-2, Joint Task Force 2. They're pretty badass. And then the Navy has what they have clearance divers. So they'll do like ordnance disposal, underwater diving stuff, like search and rescue. And then there's search and rescue techs, which is mostly like an Air Force type thing. And they all have that same qualification. They call them prelims or preliminary courses. It's 2 weeks of absolute hell. And I have a few friends that went through the course, half passed, half didn't pass. What they found was that the prelim was way harder than the stuff they actually had to do in the trade for their training or their day-to-day activities. It wasn't so much learning new skills. It was literally them trying to weed out the people that didn't want to be there enough. So you'd have 5 spots open that year. You have room for 5 clearance divers. You have a course of 40. You basically have to make it so hard that like 35 of those guys want to quit because they don't fire you. They don't kick you off the course. You have to quit or medically be released. And so then that was the whole point of it. And then the reasoning is, if you're willing to go through absolute hell more than all of these guys, once you get there, you're prouder of being in this situation. You're more willing to put in the effort. You're essentially selecting for the potential as opposed to the knowledge. So that's why I think it's that great. Now, academically, it could be completely different. You're 100% right. And this sphere kind of has neither of them.
I think principally speaking, I think every area has it regardless of what you're working as. Even if you're a mechanic, you're going to expect to see some kind of background knowledge and some investment into the area before you get to work on someone's Lexus.
Oh, I hope so.
And that's also why certain jobs pay more than others, because they require more of you and more of an investment up front.
Oh yeah, that's like the argument for doctors, right?
Like, it's like equal pay should be based on the value you can produce. So the free market, or should it be based on like how long your education was if you're in the public sector? Now, let's say you say everyone who works in the public sector who has like has a graduate degree,
right,
are on the same pay scale. That's going to be a bit of an issue because you have people who have graduate degrees that are very easy to get compared to others, and then you have degrees that are hard to get. You have like, let's take people with law degrees.
Right.
Some places there was such demand for lawyers that drove up how much you had to pay for a lawyer in the public sector. But luckily you don't need that many compared to, like, let's say, teachers. But let's say every teacher with a graduate degree suddenly needs to earn as much as a lawyer. That's gonna hit my tax bill pretty hard, man.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's the thing. It kind of incentivizes for it. If you add credentialism, then that means if teachers want more pay, they're going to invent more qualifications as like a gatekeeping measure to keep like a smaller pool of people. It kicks the ladder out from under them. And now you have to say, I have a PhD in early childhood education, so I should be paid as much as a doctor. So you can't, I don't want to go and say specifically that, the more input you put into it, the more you should get out of it. Because sometimes people are just spinning their wheels or doing some nonsense. And then with doctors and lawyers, you're not paying them for their work, because like stitching you up doesn't cost much to do. You're paying them for their knowledge, that they can handle a wide variety of topics. So like it always depends. I find it depends on the occupation.
And for the slow burn, what I noticed was that a lot of the people who showed up when they were monetizing the Manosphere, they hadn't been around very much.
True.
They were newcomers. And at the same time, though, you didn't really have anything set up to be able to kind of keep them out and be like, okay, this guy's obviously full of shit. Because the new guys who were coming in at them, it was a booming time in the space. There were a lot of people coming in at the time, too. They didn't know any better. They didn't know, Rollo from Upstream Twitter. But Upstream had better marketing.
Well, I guess so. At the very least, everybody was talking about them, even if it was just to dunk on their stupidity. I still laugh at that stuff. Every now and then I'll pull up the hashtag just to have a good laugh.
But I think that's what it kind of, and that's why I like the whole idea now that we have people now who've been around for at least 4 or 5 years. A lot of us, I think I've been around for like 4.5 years.
Oh, easily.
You've been around for like 5 or 6.
Let's say about the same. Yeah, 2014.
I'm not sure how long. Yeah, I'm not sure how long you were on, like, please call me a faggot Twitter. Please call me a faggot Reddit before you came on Twitter.
That was literally 2014. I remember that because I have the paperwork for it in my investigation file. I still have it sitting right there, by the way, when the military tried charging me with espionage and God knows what. Just staring at me right now. Just to remind me, hey, remember why you're here. I'm like, oh, yeah. There's my Batman origin story for you.
So, and Rollo's been around, like, forever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he was there criticizing Ross Jeffries in the 80s.
Oh, he still is. I gotta admit, I like Rollo. I really do like Rollo. But I notice a lot of the time he still's got, like, those grudges from, like, back when Cernovich was just starting to blog. And he's like, you know what this Steven Pinker's problem is? And I'm like, holy crap, that's a name drop. Like, I know you quote Christopher Hitchens, but at least then for you, it's like, nostalgia. For him, he still got that grudge. And then the Jeff Miller fights, those always make me laugh too. But yeah, you're right. That's old stuff.
Old stuff. These, I think those are funny. Those like old ass grudges.
Yeah.
I think those are kind of funny because it's like, and for Rollo, and it's not a criticism because I just find it entertaining. It's when we're actually discussing something that happened just now. And suddenly you can kind of see his eyes glaze over and he's having like a Vietnam-style flashback of an argument he had with Rouge back in 2008.
Yeah, that stuff makes me chuckle so much, man. Oh, speaking of which, here's the funny thing. I was on this topic, so I'm going through the sidebar again for my thing. It's not the best for views, but it's the baseline material, like you said, the stuff that people who have been here for a couple years should have already known. And I figure for the new guys, here you go. Here's everything I know. You can be smarter than me after like a couple hours of watching it. So we're doing Esther Villar's Manipulated Man right now. And it's something I didn't realize at the time, because for me, it was like, I read this during the anger phase to get some vindication. It kind of gets you moving. But I'm reading it now and I'm like, this chick from the 1930s who wrote a book in the 1970s sounds just like every PowerPoint MGTOW video that's out there right now. Same talking points, same beats, same grievances. And I'm like, oh my God, the MRAs and the MGTOWs are essentially silent generation feminists. Blew my mind. It's something I didn't even know until like going through it here 4 years after the fact.
Well, it's one of those things. It's something I've noticed with politics too, that if you take your average like hardcore Christian conservative today,
yeah,
they're way out on the right.
Mm-hmm.
But most of their views are kind of like the views of a liberal in the 30s.
Oh, easily. They aren't even dropping N-bombs except for by accident. That's like huge progress since the 30s.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Gamers are kind of bringing that back, man.
Yeah, fair enough. As long as they're not being all extra rapey, then it's fine. Yeah, okay, so they're more liberal now as opposed to in the 30s, sure. Where
But
are
I
you going
also
with
like
this?
the fact that some of our words are actually making it into the mainstream now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a complete digression. I just think it's funny because I actually saw someone on a gaming website legit use the term weaponized autism.
What? No way. That's awesome. You must be so proud.
Yeah, it was actually really funny because I don't know. Side digression, since we're on Twitch,
Mm-hmm.
they dropped a new content patch on the old World of Warcraft now. With like, there's a huge farm, and part of it is you need to kill 42,000 bugs or something in a specific area in the open world.
Oh, okay.
And what happens is, like, normally this is going to be a lot of PvP going on there because you're going to have the Alliance or you're going to have the Horde, and they're going to be fighting each other.
Right.
What actually happened was, like, a couple of guilds on Alliance and a couple of guilds on Horde on almost every PvP server got together and they're like, okay, we're going to take over these 3 spots and we'll protect you against grinders from your own faction. And you protect us from grinders for our faction. So they're essentially colluding cross-faction to kill everyone.
That's kind of interesting.
And naturally what happens is that a lot of people are running to the forums and they're whining about it. That's what gamers do. Like, when they lose, they whine. And what happened is, on one of those comment threads, there was some guy going, I just want a fair chance. And the other goes, yeah, God forbid people with superior organization and social skills beats your pure, unadulterated, weaponized autism.
Oh my God, that's beautiful. That belongs in a museum. I like that one. Heaven
I
forbid.
actually copied the quote because I'm stealing it.
Oh man, that's good. Yeah, I liked that one. I liked how Karen was kind of becoming a thing. The Sun Hat Mafia, like that stuff's kind of the Sun Hat goddess. That's kind of taken off. I noticed there's on Twitter now, it's people just sending it to me, say, look at this, some account that none of us have ever heard of, it's not following anybody, bringing up girls in sundresses with tattoos on, going, don't worry, boys, she's finished with her 20s. And I'm like, nice. So at the very
Yeah, I've
least,
actually been loving that in YouTube comments too, man. It's like you see like some guy being like, stop thirsting.
but it's good. It lets me know, like, at least, even though the marketing guys with the, button up cupcake bullshit, at least we're still able to get some catchy phrases out there. So like we have potential to be, what's the word? I don't know, influential. An actual influencer who influences as opposed to just reads the news and yells at the screen like it's 1984. Actually, that was a Tim Pool jab right now. I'm not sure why I'm jabbing at him. I like his beanie. But that was the other thing for me.
Yeah, there's.
Or yeah, just content.
But bring
Watching
it back
people
on
now.
topic though.
Yeah.
I think it's just about persistence and staying around, because if you stay around, you will gradually gather up people who kind of like your point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll build an audience that's kind of solid. Like, I can even joke, like yesterday, like, well, before I realized that, I've caught on a lot of people I don't want to listen to me. So I just have to try and actively get rid of some of them now.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I love watching your purges.
And,
like, you're so bad at it. Last time you tried, when you gained followers.
yeah, I gained like 6,000 followers when I was actively, like, I had to stop having a private Twitter just because the go through list got too long and people were like, getting a hold of me in comments on YouTube and shit. Could you please let me follow you?
But that's good though. I like that. It's like, I think it's a, and people always throw out that stupid word authenticity, which I can't stand. I consider it a container word. If you guys want to know when that is in the chat, let me know and I'll talk about it later. But they talk about authenticity. But then they talk about how they're curating authenticity. I'm like, dude, you want to know authentic? And I would say that's a perfect example. Like, you're literally telling people exactly what you're going to do, and you're going to do it. You're not doing it because you want anything from people. You actually want less from people. It's like, I want you guys to go away. And I think people are drawn to that, which I think is a more positive way of doing like the berating your audience thing that so many of the coaches, and they're always coaches too. Seems like the people who think that they're running the 49ers to the Super Bowl are going to call guys cupcakes and tell them to man up.
Well, it's also, you have to keep in mind, like, when you're actually doing the drill sergeant gig,
Mm-hmm.
The people who are there actually actively want to be there and want you to berate them and want you to break them down and make them better.
Oh yeah, the
And the fact
Catholic
that some people are
confession.
willing to pay for it, and considering some people are even willing to pay for it, is incredible.
Well, that's the thing. I never figured it out. I just remember it's like I always called it Catholic confession because there was a group in the Married Red Pill. That's why we kind of, at first, it was like dropping F-bombs on each other, calling them bundle of sticks here, calling them, fag that.
I think
And
it's an effective way
to get
to
through ego,
build
it's
a
an ego
big
check.
audience. Yeah, but I think it's a good way to get a lot of attention and get a lot of followers quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why it's used, because it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time to actually build something that offers people legit value. Offering
100%.
people the feeling that they're trying and doing something, you can do that pretty quickly. And Kyle Trouble had this thing he was doing for a while, like small niche sites.
Mm-hmm.
So he basically set up a
yeah.
website on some topic, and then he dropped like 10 articles on it, and he just let it sit there and get him passive revenue. And it's a good model, and I think that's what I noticed with a lot of these guys. They were just building a big audience so they can leverage that into either political punditry, into some
Usually
kind of
political.
sales gig or something. And that's why it's not authentic, because they're not building the thing because they want to build the thing. They are using that thing as a means to get to the end they really want, as opposed to letting that thing be an end in itself. And for me, then everything becomes inauthentic when you do it that way. Like a girl, like if you're just talking to, if you're hitting on two girls,
Mm-hmm.
and you're giving the ugly one attention, then the hot one is going to be sitting there going like, why the fuck is he talking to my ugly friend? Does he think she's prettier than me? So she becomes insecure.
Classic mystery, by the way, if you guys don't know.
But then if you ditch the ugly one a bit too quickly or harshly, then the hot one realizes, oh, it was just using my friend to get to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then it backfires on you. You have to do it with enough authenticity that it seems natural.
See, that's funny. I know I could picture you having the air quotes for authenticity because that's social savviness. I've often made the case, and I can't remember where I originally got it from. I know it's one of the Evo site guys, one of those heavy hitters, but it's not that people didn't like being manipulated. It's that they hated when people were obvious about it. Like there was an underlying signal showing you were socially savvy enough to manipulate a person, but to have them be okay with it. And on a subliminal level, they're like, oh, okay, so this is the kind of guy who can be charismatic and charming. Yeah, he manipulated me into this, but, everybody likes an asshole when they're their asshole. They just don't like an asshole, like, from a different group. Like, Trump is great to guys who Trump on their side.
But definitely, like, all that social savviness just comes down to knowing your correct timings and pivot points. Like, if you go too late, you fuck it up. If you go too early, you fuck it up. So it has to be just right. It's kind of like the Goldilocks strategy.
Yeah, you got to get a good cadence.
It's kind of like some guy said. I can't remember who it was. It was one of those one of the writers who said that if you want to know what women mean by creepy, it's directness and sexualization without calibration.
Yeah. Venkatesh
like
Rao.
Imagine some guy.
Oh, you go. Imagine a guy.
Yeah, like imagine some guy who's hitting on a girl, and he's being really, really direct, and hyper. Like he's doing like Roger Curry. What's his name again? Not Adam. It's Roger Curry's.
Mode 1.
Mode 1, I think it's called. But the guy has no social calibration. He looks like crap. He has bad breath because he has spinach in his teeth.
Yeah, the body language is insecure. The whole works. Very incongruent.
And all that comes from like lacking the patience to think we understand creepy nice. We've finally gotten an audience to the point where they know when they're being creepy.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's
it only took us like 5 years.
The guys are having like TISM tallies in their chat, like in our private community. They talk. All right, so I'm at like TISM 1, good 0. TISM 2, good 0. They're making like spreadsheets on it. It's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, the irony is like making that spreadsheet is the biggest TISM you have.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it too. I don't know. I don't think you're a fan of Venkatesh Rao, or you don't read him, or maybe you do. I can't remember. But I liked how he frames it in like a musical way or like a narrative format. Like he had a very good experiment in the first two chapters of Tempo, where he says, as you're doing something, like you kind of journal it, and if you have a positive emotion or a negative emotion towards it, you draw a darker circle or a lighter circle. If it's bigger, more profound, or more subtle, you make it bigger or smaller. And then he says you basically graph your interaction, and you're going to start to notice, similar to like writing a story or doing a piece of music, that it's going to have a cadence to it. There's going to be highs, there's going to be lows. And I think if you really want to tism up what you just said, I think that's the way you can kind of map it on this little 2-axis plot. Like if you're being super sexual right away, very strong emotions, she's going to perceive it negatively, as opposed to something where you were subtly sexual and nuanced about it, where it's like it builds them up. It gives them that practice into it. It's like when you're, because they know you're going to be that guy who's in bed. They're going to like just jam it in right away. It's like, dude, foreplay first, man. I'm not even wet yet. You know what I mean?
That's a good analogy.
Yeah. Plus, I always like mentioning any chance I can get when a guy's talking some dumb shit, thinking that he's all that when it comes to women. I'm like, just throw sand in the vagina. You'll dry it out faster, slightly faster, instead of wasting your time doing this nonsense.
I'm gonna steal that one. That was a good one.
Please do. I can't remember the name of that stuff you throw on oil slicks on the ground, though, that like cat litter crap.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
There's a lot less activity in the chat today, though. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, well,
do you think most of our crowd is still over on YouTube?
I did like I had a feeling that maybe they don't follow on Twitter. Maybe they just get the notifications on their phone. So I actually did a quick live stream 10 minutes prior. I put the links in the chat. I put the links in the description. I gave a little minute things like, just so you know, this week we're going to try out Twitch, move it over there. So here's the link. Come check it out. And if you can't or won't, I'll go through that 24, like Twitch has a 24-hour period where this is exclusive to them. And then I can re-upload it to YouTube, and I'll do it like that. And so I'll see how this thing plays out. I literally don't know how this is going to look, how much the audience is going to come, how much isn't.
Yeah, because I'm actually seeing people who are trying to. Looking at the chat over there, and there are some people there like, what's happening there? Why isn't what's going on? So.
Oh, yeah, I would imagine there's a bunch of you guys from Twitch. Yeah, well, I think that's from the Twitch side of things, because we're in just chatting, and from what I understand, like 9 in the morning is a very easy to use time slot, because most gamers aren't up till like 11:30. But I guess for the new guys, so yeah, if you don't... 11:30 is...
No, that was one of my favorite Twitch clips from like a World of Warcraft ranking thing. You have a team of 10 players, and they're missing one of their priests. And the guy just comments, yeah, we're supposed to go at 8 o'clock, but this fucker likes to sleep, so you'll probably be late.
Fair enough. Damn gamers. But I guess, yeah, so if you guys are new to this, if you come here from Twitch, if you aren't here from YouTube, if you don't know what Red Morning is, Carl from Black Label Logic, check out his website. Awesome writing. He's also got books, Gendernomics. We talk about sexual dynamics, and then there's me, Ryan Stone. I mean, you're on my channel now, so you found me out. And we kind of have like a meta podcast like discussion about the space, as well as actionable advice on actual topics, and just more a holistic approach of how to man without having autism. Yeah, so if you guys are in here from Twitch, enjoy yourselves. We started this thing off day drinking. We since then have advanced to drinking water in the mornings. I think Carl might be drunk now, but that's fine. And every now and then,
I always drink when we do these shows.
Speaking of which, speaking of day drinking, do you remember that episode we did where we just got drunk and used wrestling references to dunk on the people from that Central Florida convention that were just spurging out?
Yeah, that was funny.
That's officially
I still replay that on occasion.
Yeah, that's officially the most popular video on this channel that doesn't have like the Rule Zero group. So that's our best. It
kind of makes sense though. Because it was like a lot of emotional topics at the time, and people were wondering what the hell is going on behind the scenes here.
Yeah. Yeah, and it gave like a murder mystery.
Yeah, and at some point, like I think some guy even posted, like, here is my theory of which wrestler is which personality.
Some of them are so easy, though. Like Brutus the Barber Beefcake, if you didn't know that was George Bruno, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, same with Hacksaw. The fact that that was the family alpha was pretty obvious.
Yeah. Oh, he's
Funnily
back,
enough,
by
though,
the
he's
way. Did you
back
hear?
writing authentically under a pseudonym now.
Oh man, yeah, I know. I saw that. I was like, what in the hell? But I think and
I
that
don't. I
kind of
want.
goes to what we were talking about.
Yeah, but
Patience.
is the guy bipolar or something? It seems like really weird.
No, he's like perfectly normal guy. Like we still talk. He's literally like the kind of guy I would sail with and have a lot of fun with. Me go drinking in foreign ports. Like there's literally nothing wrong with him. Perfectly normal guy. I think I don't want to talk shop outside of class in this one, but I have a feeling that there was a lot of people that wanted him to succeed and a lot of people who had their pie in the sky dreams of being millionaires driving Lamborghinis. And I have a feeling he kind of bought into that dream a little too hard and then kind of distanced himself from the people who wanted to help him. And I think now we're just seeing how that plays out once you realize that it's just vaporware. There's no Lamborghini, and the few that there are, they're all rented, except for one guy, Tate, but he has to sell like 5,000 cam girls to make it happen.
You mean like he literally sells them, or you mean it's ours? Because I mean, we should
Hours,
probably
I
get
don't
an
know.
advertising deal with him. We should probably do an advertising deal with him now. Now that we're on Twitch, I mean, the audience here is really ripe for chicks. They just have to make sure they have a PlayStation controller in the back, and they're like, "Oh, she's my ultimate gamer girl."
Ooh, that actually might not be a bad idea. I would do that with them. Except for I was like, I need you to keep Lambton away from me. That potato alpha drives me nuts.
No, oh yeah, that dude. Yeah, the one who was
The
the one who's
one
trying
who
to
was
start Twitter beef with me after I've been off for like 6 months. It's like probably not the best guy to start a beef with, but.
Yeah, exactly. First off, he's savage. Secondly, he doesn't care. Thirdly, people know how he talks. He doesn't talk like that. Fourthly, we're all fine if you want to do some goofy stuff. Just let us know beforehand so we're ready for it. But I'm like, it's typical Slav humor. You know, I'm only going to live till 47 anyway, so I might as well burn a candle at both ends. Oh, damn.
Well,
Corey's
the
in
way
the chat. Oops, that's Bull Rush. Bull Rush is here too. Nice.
it's gonna be interesting if we actually get Corey on Twitch.
Dude, I want to. He's the one that actually got me on Tetris. I did not know this. There's a whole group here of just playing the old Nintendo Tetris, and they have tournaments, and deceptively, I would not have expected. It's some of the most entertaining stuff I've ever watched on the internet, watching a 2-player Tetris tournament. I'm like, oh my God, the announcers are fucking energetic. The guys are pulling these crazy moves. There's highs, there's lows. You got this running tally, and I guess they're so good that you get to a certain point that the technical limitations of the game running at 30 frames per second makes it impossible to play. Like the pieces move so fast, there's only 2 frames. So you can only move a block 1 block over. So you're pretty much, and they call that like the dead zone or something like that. So your whole goal is to either get enough points at that point that the other guy can't catch up to you. But then you run the risk of, if you're just doing that, that means you're only going for 10. I'm boring you the hell out of it, but I'm just telling you, if you watch it, you'd be like, my God, this was actually fun to watch.
Yeah,
Kill screen, that's like the one.
If you watch the, what's it called? Old fighting game tournaments too, like old Street Fighter. That's a lot of fun to watch.
Oh, like the Champion Edition stuff, or even the original.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like those.
It's a lot of fun to watch. My favorite is Mortal Kombat, though. I've always been Mortal Kombat over Street Fighter or Tekken.
See, that makes sense, because I liked Street Fighter and Tekken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
win or lose.
Can't blame you for having bad taste.
But then again, I also liked Total Annihilation more than I liked Warcraft 2. Or was it Warcraft 3 at the time? Whichever one was the same time. I guess I'm that guy who just had to like crystal clear Pepsi more than normal Pepsi, right?
Yeah, you're that weirdo. But I think a lot of it, though, is started with, like, what games you played when you were very young.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get a Nintendo or did you get a Sega? Because it wasn't like now when people have every like console that's out. It was like you had like one console. So if you started with Nintendo, you stayed with Nintendo.
Yeah. If you went with
And
Sega,
then
you
if you
stayed
had
with
something
Sega.
else, you just stayed with that.
Which makes sense, because
And it just kind of ran like that.
Yeah, if you played sports games, you usually had a Sega. If you played more of like the adventure stuff, like the Mario stuff, you'd mostly be on Nintendo. Because yeah, Sega was always the best for sports games, but Nintendo was always the best for like adventure games. I miss that though.
But
You're right.
think,
Nowadays,
though,
nobody gets that kind of flavor to them.
But I also think that the kind of patience you needed for those old games kind of helped people build a tolerance for patience and, gradual grinding to get better.
Dude, that's the case I made in my book for game. That was literally why I started this channel, because there was like a quote there where I'm like, game was perfect for my autistic, 80s and 90s kid Nintendo generation thing, because Mega Man 2 was literally you sitting there practicing and failing for like 1,000 tries and then eventually memorizing patterns and then being able to make your own. And so Jack Napier was like, dude, you got to start streaming Mega Man 2. So I put that on there and I'm like, man, this is awesome. It's like I'm doing pickup all over again. But you're right.
Well, I think
like,
the
they don't
Mario
have that
games
anymore.
No, it's also the Mario games were a lot of, like, if you weren't good enough, you'd just die to that fucking cannon on top of that Bowser ship 100 fucking times or 1,000 times until you were good enough.
Yeah, like you
And
realize
they
they
kind of
actually
took that out of gaming.
Yeah, they literally put it there because they knew if you're just trying to rush through, you're going to run right into it. And so that taught you patience because they actually punished you for not having patience. But you're right, because what games do now is essentially they're stealing from gambling. Like loot crates, they try to make like very small, quick jolts of interaction and dopamine hits. They give you the blinking lights, the flashing things. The old games used to be like the arcades. The arcades was just to make things, how hard can we make it that makes you die constantly, but not so hard that you quit? And they tried to find that butter zone because you keep pumping quarters into a thing. And I think the early consoles were kind of still from that generation of developers, and it's really sad they're not around anymore.
Well, I had that discussion about MMORPGs a while ago. Because if you look at the old games, if you look at something like Lineage or EverQuest.
Oh, we are talking old
especially
school.
Lineage was brutal. If I remember correctly, it's like it had permadeath. So if you died, you'd have to start over again.
Right.
If you got killed by another player, they could take all your shit. And everything took like forever. And like EverQuest was also one of those things like, and when I started playing like old school Warcraft again, World of Warcraft that is, I just noticed like everything takes longer, everything is slower. You can die if you screw up a pull, you die, and then you have to spend 20 minutes running back to your corpse. And if you compare that to the modern one, everything is essentially made so that you can log in.
Right.
They want you to log in every day, do 25 daily quests, do like an instance or two, and then log back out. But the old game was like, the more time you want to throw at this, the better it is for you. Like, there's actually no limit. Like, and you have to play against people who spend, like, you could be like one of those guys who spent 20 hours a day for the last 7 years in game.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly he's fighting a dad who spends like 2 hours a day in game. And there's like no dividing between those two. It's like, okay, you're gonna get fucked up. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
And games today, they're just not built. And I remember how surprised I was when I bought like the PS Pro, that games actually have like a story difficulty now.
A story difficulty? Oh, I thought you were just talking about like catch-up mechanics.
Well, catch-up, but when you play games like, let's see, what I'm gonna find them. I'm just gonna find the old like difficulties from Duke Nukem.
Oh yeah, like come get some.
Yeah, here's the old one. Like, how tough are you? Like, can I play, Daddy? Don't hurt me. Bring it on. And I'm Death Incarnate. Were like the difficulty levels. and they added like a story mode difficulty to a lot of games that are kind of story based, so that even if you're shit at the game, you can get through them and experience the story.
Oh.
Because that way you buy the new DLC to get more story.
That's so weird then. They're basically monetizing a choose your own adventure and pretending it's a game.
Yeah, exactly.
See, that's the thing. I can't stand that. It's such, out of all the things to dumb down for your audience, like games are one I would picture you not having. That actually explains a lot then. So I thought it was just about gambling and tapping into that dopamine hits. But if they're literally trying to make guys feel like the noblest man on earth, I beat Mass Effect or whatever. You didn't actually beat it. You just kept pushing X and it automatically pushed you through all the action scenes.
Yeah, that's an interesting, because like people don't have the patience anymore, and that's why a game like Dark Souls did so well.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I
So
remember correctly, that's a game that's actually like old school difficult.
really,
If I remember, I think it was Dark. There's at least like I think it was Dark Souls, but at least it was a game that came out, and people were like, "Oh, this is like the old games. Like if you're bad, you're not going to make it through this game." But there's a very limited audience for it because they're trying to get as many people as they're trying to make it palatable for as many people as possible. It's similar to like back in the Schism days when you had like a manosphere philosophy for every taste. Are you a Christian man who would like to be more successful in your pursuit of a noble female? Here's your account. Are you the same kind of dude, but you're Muslim? Here's a dude with a beard to talk to you. Are you lonely and just want to get laid like a rock star? Here's your dude.
yeah.
Are you a guy who wants to do you want to be an ethical pickup artist? Here's your brand. And it's kind of like the same thing with games. They're like, okay, like screw all those divisions of like different things people play, and let's just make one thing that everyone wants to play 40 hours a day and buy loot boxes with all their money. That's kind of like the ultimate goal of games these days, at least the way I see it. And
Yeah.
it's kind of similar to how people are trying to make this like overarching new thing so they can capture the entire audience instead of accepting there will always be like some niches. Like you're kind of spinning your thing over towards like relationship game mixed with some pickup, mixed with some omelets.
When you put it that way, it sounds like a Japanese crossover anime. They're bounty hunters from space, and it's a western with jazz music.
And everyone is kind of like spinning their things.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually better because I kind of miss that with games too. That there used to be like different shit. I like a lot of different genres. I like playing RTS games, but there hasn't been like a new RTS game in like forever because they're not popular.
Yeah, I think StarCraft 2
I
was
used
the
to
last
love
one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was dog shit, man.
I don't know.
Like the re-release of Star and like the remastering of Warcraft 3, I think it was like the cutscenes back in the day actually looked better.
Really? They did that bad a job, huh?
Yeah. And I think a lot of it just comes down to like people aren't patient anymore. So they want something that's easy, digestible, convenient, but makes them feel good.
I just don't get that.
And
I think, yeah, finish your thought. I'm going to rant in a minute.
no, go ahead.
I was just thinking, like, that was the part that I hate. You get let's talk about pickup. I was doing it from like 2003, 2010, in that like the 2000s essentially. And everybody was talking about, oh, I don't want to just have meaningless sex. I want to have a good quality woman, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. And the part that drove me nuts about it is like, dude, I found that out really early on that getting a notch and sleeping with somebody wasn't the fun part. The fun part was the experience. It was literally practicing something that I could get better at. The process was fun. Getting shot down was fun as long as it was a good story. Well, at least I tried something new. Or, yeah, I got shot down, but I get why. Or I did that was stupid. Or that was awesome. Times when the night just fell into my lap were kind of boring. And I think a lot of guys had that same experience. That's why they're like, they find that there's this thing guys used to do where try to get shot down, and whoever gets shot down the best gets his drinks paid for that night. And so everybody walks out with the intention of interacting with people and getting shot down. But then they found out these guys, like, you would approach this stuff all fearlessly talking to girls. You'd say things just to get them to tell you to bugger off. And guys were finding out, like, it's actually hard to get somebody not to like you. It's like Carl when he tried to purge his Twitter feed. He started going after the sacred cows of all of his followers, and he ended up getting like 10% more. But that same thing with like games. I don't want a game that I can beat in 45 minutes. I don't want a game that I'm at work thinking about, oh, I better get back and, plug some energy into my what were the Star Wars? That was how I played Star Wars Galaxies for like 3 weeks. And I remember that I was at work one day thinking, I gotta feed my moisture farms. And then I'm at work.
Moisture harvester, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, and I was like, why am I at work thinking about this? Yeah, what's that?
Yeah, it was. I had the same thing. It was like, oh, okay, I better go and check if that good deuterium steel is spawned on Dathomir again.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, why am I at work thinking about this thing like it's a damn job? I'm there to enjoy and relax, not to stress myself out. So I dropped it. I did WoW for 3 weeks. I did Star Wars Galaxies for 3 weeks. And then that was it. I was just done with the MMOs. I'm like, I don't need something that's another full-time job. I've already got one. Thank you very much. And that's when like my girl loved it because then all she had to do was my birthday and the Call of Duty came out about the same month. So all she had to do was buy me the new Call of Duty game, and she handled like her good girlfriend points for the year. She got so mad when I'm like, I don't like this anymore. They're like robots fighting each other with drones. I'm like, this isn't what I want.
I just think people want, like, you have a subset of an audience that want to be challenged by games, and then you have a lot of dad gamers.
Yeah.
Who just kind of want to log in for an hour when the 13 kids have been fed and the wife has turned them down for sex for the third month in a row, and they just want to go in the game and feel good about themselves.
Well, those are toys, though. That's what SimCity is a great example for that. That's something you can pick up and put down. It's perfect. Factorio, it's one I'm doing on here now.
I think a lot of people are just, they get into the wrong games for them. And then they want the games to change to cater to them. Because I usually joke that if you want to figure out how, like, retail, like the current retail World of Warcraft got to where it is, just go on the Wayback Machine and read all the whining on the forums from 2004 to 2019, and there's your explanation.
Right.
Because they were just trying to cater to the demographic who didn't really like their games. It's kind of like what Marvel's doing. It's like they're kind of spitting on all the people who have loved Marvel. Like the kind of people who have like a tramp stamp tattoo of Iron Man. And if you tell them, well, I kind of like DC better, they want to pull you outside of Comic-Con and have a fist fight. Those kind of diehard fans are kind of being shit on by the company that they've given a lot of money to, because the company is trying to appeal to another demographic that doesn't really like them to begin with.
Yeah. They don't care about the product. They don't care about the IP.
It's like going to a lesbian bar and trying to pick up a chick.
I like that one. You've been having that one in the kitty for a while. But yeah, I don't know how to impart. Like we're talking about games. We're talking about what type of entertainment we like. Yeah, as the Manosphere, if you're not doing push-ups in the shower instead of playing a game, what are you doing with your life? Like whatever. If your life's on lock, waste your time however you want. My point is this. Let's put that to like the topic at hand, the sexual dynamics. That's how you get incels. I don't know if I can say that on the channel without getting booted. Probably not, but whatever. Like those are guys who literally have a worldview, a way that they've been raised. Their single mom taught them this. Their school teachers taught them this. Be a good boy. Here's some Ritalin. And instead of realizing that maybe all these people that are well-meaning and they wanted me to do well have just stunted me, and I can improve and get past it, but I have to shed all this stuff that I learned beforehand. They're like, nope, it's not me. I think it's the world's fault for being the way it is, and they need to start getting with the program. Because my mom told me when I was 3 that I was a special little boy. You know what I mean on that? And it's just...
I think that's kind of an... Mm-hmm. I know what you mean. I think a lot of guys just kind of... They've never kind of come to terms with the fact that they aren't a special snowflake.
Yeah. Well, I think that goes to your quote about the military.
Well, there's so much conflict within games because people are being kind of put... They're having to face the fact that they just aren't very good. If you engage in player versus player, you have some kind of ranking ladder or something, people kind of realize that, oh shit, I really suck at the game, and how people respond to that is going to tell you more about their personality than anything else. Because are they going to get back on it? Are they going to find another game that caters to them more so they can feel good about themselves?
Are they going to practice to get better at it?
Lay down and cry? Are they going to go on a crusade against video games because they suck at them?
Are they going to turn the
guy
that
beat them? Those are all
kind
of reactions to failure.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of an interesting observation on like the patience it takes to get through some of the old games. Because like I remember I played Final Fantasy X. I think I pumped like 420 hours or something into that.
Damn. I think I stopped.
And it's not even a hard game, but the whole thing was I just wanted to see if I could max out every single stat the character had, and there were like 20 stats, and that took like fucking forever.
No, yeah, I've never played past 7. I'm just laughing because every time you're going on this, I got the Gen Xers in the chat making some really good points. If you guys don't know, that one's like a deceptively savage line about Candy Crush. Back Yeah, and patience and practice. Here we go. That's business. That's not just games. That's business. That's pickup. That's meeting girls. You have to just accept that if you're not succeeding, then obviously your expectations are too high, or the modeling that you're using to drive your decisions are wrong. And that's hard to do because that admits that you ain't shit. And I think most guys don't want to do that. And I'm arguing, I think that's why you get a lot of those drill sergeant wannabes. Because they're like, no, you're 100% right. You just suck at it. But that lets a guy know, oh, okay, so all I got to do is double down. More chore play, buy more. It's like literally Pat Stedman with a spine. And I don't like it. And I don't, like, I'm with you. I like your approach of not trying to persuade. Like, I don't want your business or need your business. I only want you here if you want to be here. I love that. Triage. But I don't know if there's a way to get through to that kind of guy anyways.
Well, I used to have like this DM group on Twitter with like me, Ed Lattimore, Illimitable Man, and a guy I won't mention because he's not really a public figure.
Okay.
And we used to discuss this thing about like how big do you realistically want to get? How do you grow? A lot of it, like, we figured out, for instance, like, to get the maximum amount of tweet interaction, have a spelling error in there.
Oh, I accidentally did that one then.
No, we actually figured it out because, like, we were looking at, like, our feeds, and it turned out, like, all of us had made, like, grieve spelling errors in one of our tweets, and it was always, like, the one that had a spelling error that got a ton of retweets.
Huh. Actually, that makes sense, because, yeah, people want to correct things.
But what I was getting at, we came to this conclusion that as long as you have the right followers, there's no like upper limit. But if you have a lot of wrong followers in your following, you're gonna eventually try to cater to them. Mm-hmm. So if you notice Ed's feed, for instance, he'll go on that self-help motivational shtick for like 2 days or 3 days or whatever until he's gained another 10,000 followers.
Right.
And then he'll drop like 18 semi-racist coffee jokes to kind of cull the herd back down. Maybe he'll be left with like 6,000 out of those 10. And then he just keeps repeating that cycle. And I think for games, it would make more sense to cater to the audience that actually likes them. It's kind of like this old joke, what can you tell about what can you tell about a 60-year-old British man who goes to Thailand?
What?
He likes ladyboys and has a drinking problem. What can you tell about the same guy if he prefers to go to Cambodia?
What's that?
He likes kids and has a heroin problem.
Oh, that's some dry British wit. I actually put a thing in the chat here. It's this guy, Opium Tales. I love his stuff, and he kind of said this exact same thing. He goes, three things happen once an account gets big. They either get very conservative and try not to offend anybody. The strategy is not to lose. They say random stupid stuff for attention, which he finds annoying, or they stay the same. And he says almost nobody does number 3. But I liked him because what does he do? He does like art. He draws like naked babes. He's kind of got like a Gauguin vibe to him, but he's money Twitter. Except for he's not talking about how to make money in money Twitter. Like he actually is doing something of worth. So I think those guys are much better to follow than like the meta groups. But he's reflected everything we've talked about here, where it's just like patience, continue to do things, cull your audience based on what you're trying to deliver. So like you don't pander to people, you let people who are interested in you come to you. And I think that's that authenticity that everybody wants. Just literally doing your own thing without being pandered to. Like, don't wink at the audience.
Well, you have to keep in mind, a lot of people are used to being pandered to, and I think that's kind of the big issue we're facing now in society. Is like we're the generation that's been pandered to and has like when you have a pander to generation combined with the self-esteem movements, you get entitlement. Mm-hmm. And everyone is kind of demanding that the world cater to their preferences and sensibilities. And
even if they make no sense.
Enough social media. Yeah, and if you make social media on top of that, so all these crazy people can actually meet each other and link up, then you have a potentially disruptive force. Like, I don't think, like, the thing that's currently going on in the States with the protests and everything would have happened without social media.
Oh, it definitely wouldn't have. And even if it did have, people wouldn't be scared about their homes. Like, you notice that whole, like, arm the suburbs thing that's kind of going as a backlash to it?
I didn't notice that one.
Well, it started with the guy with the pink polo shirt with his AR on his lawn, telling people to get off his lawn, and then they tried to charge him for defending himself. And then the South started to get that "will rise again" feeling to him. It was, but it's like you said, nobody would have known in Alabama. Nobody would have known about some riots in Minnesota without social media. They would have gotten some sanitized view of it. They would have just called it, oh, that's just crazy liberals and been done with it. But now they're like at home, stocking up and arming up because of social media and because of like a motivated group of spurgs that manage to collect together because the internet brings people together by interest, not by geography.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where you've seen all this, like the cancel culture thing too, and like the fact that you can put out a video game, it can be the best game in years, like Witcher 3, for instance, fantastic game.
Is it?
And it's like, The Witcher 3 is not really diverse enough. Well, it's a game in a mythological world set in Poland, made by a Polish game company, based on a book written by a Polish dude. Like, do you know how many black people there are in Poland? And how many black people there were in Poland in, like, the 1300s or the 1100s or whatever?
Zero. Maybe one Moorish slave that they had back in the day.
And to me, the whole thing just becomes crazy. It becomes too crazy to take realistic. Like, we're living in, like, a reductio ad absurdum reality. Because everything is taken to its furthest logical consequence, and then people pretend like that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like, it didn't make sense to cast David Carradine in Kung Fu.
That's true.
But at the same time, though, it doesn't make sense to make King Arthur a Native American.
Yeah, fair point on that one. Make him Welsh. What are you thinking?
So it's not... you're really screwed on representation.
Yeah.
There's not enough sheep fucking going on in modern culture.
I still can't believe Catherine Zeta-Jones is Welsh. Did not see that one coming. Like, she's a white chick? How did that happen?
No, I agree with you.
Yeah. Here's one. A question in the chat. So, question: when players switched from first-person shooters to real-time strategies, and I try to play a first-person shooter, players still act like NPCs. Do I have to fully abandon RTS for FOS? What? No. Are you enjoying yourself? Play. If you're not, don't. If you need to get to work, maybe put the game down. It's like we're talking about this on a meta thing, but don't look for like actionable advice on how to kill time on your hobbies, right? That's my thought on it anyway.
Well, my thought is just like find something you enjoy and find something you actually want to play rather than play something because everyone else does. I think that's kind of the sad thing is like gaming used to be so diverse in types of games.
Mm-hmm.
And now you more or less have like 3 games. You have the FPS game with the RPG elements. You have the RPG with the FPS elements. Oh wait, we only have two styles of games. Never mind.
There's the Battle Royale. That's all popular right now.
Yeah, that's just a MOBA. That's kind of like... Yeah, but MOBA is essentially just RTS, RPG with FPS elements to it, more or less.
Mm-hmm. Which I guess it's
and
super
I just
popular.
think that's kind of... Yeah, but most of them are... They're super popular, but they kind of lack... Like, think about Minecraft. Like, that game is... Basically, go in this game and play with Legos.
Yeah. It's my favorite part about it.
It became super popular. Because it just lets people get an outlet to their creativity. Like, if you'd asked, like, which game is going to be the biggest success, Mass Effect 4 or Minecraft, people would have gone, oh, it's obviously going to be Mass Effect.
That tweet didn't age well.
That was a horribly... Yeah, that was obviously a botched game, too, but... I don't know. I just think the whole thing comes down to, like, people don't want to wait for the ending anymore. That's why people buy, like, dime store novels instead of buying real books. It's why people would rather, sit through 18 versions of The Real Housewives over actually watching something that has some merit to it. Though I do think that, like, Real Housewives is a good thing for, like, have your girl watch, because then she gets her drama outlet without it having to involve you.
Yeah, it's helpful.
Because all girls like that little... Like, men turn everything into competition and women turn everything into drama.
Yes, they do.
It's like, have you ever tried to do something with your buddies that's like the least competitive thing ever and suddenly it turns into a competition?
Always. It could be anything. It could literally be drinking and then now it turns into a drinking contest when you're just sitting down after work having a beer. Next thing you know, you're seeing who can drink more Colt 45 without getting a headache, and you all lose. Specifically talking on that one. Stupidest
with women,
contest
just
ever.
everything with a woman can turn into drama. It's like I even know some really good like gaming guilds that they don't let women join just because they know it will create drama, not necessarily created by the women, but by guys who are being thirsty, and then they start arguing over the girl, and next thing you know, like the guild is splitting because this one chick just joined.
Yeah. Oh God, I am surprised people don't know that's how it happens now. Like whatever, Red Pill has the male social matrix, the female social matrix. You see how they interact. We can go on that stuff, but just anybody who's ever done anything co-ed with one girl in the group, that one thirsty guy will screw everything up for everybody. And I know because girls, everything that a girl says comes through her ego, so they think that means that they're being ostracized and like girls can't do this, girls can't do that. It's like, no, man, you're fine. But I know at least 10% of the group that I'm with right now will say and do anything to get in your pants, and that's going to screw up the whole dynamic. So unfortunately, this is why guys can't have nice things. My bad, ladies.
Yeah, it's the same thing that I don't think men and women can really be friends unless they've like grown up together from they were like tiny kids.
Yeah, you get that like family vibe to it.
Yeah, you need to get the family vibe. Otherwise, they're always friends because one wants to fuck the other.
Mm-hmm. And when we say one, we mean the guy.
Well,
very
usually.
very
I've
few,
seen
very
it the other
few
way around
cases.
too, but it's kind of rare.
Yeah, exactly. You can name them by name. Oh yeah, that's the one girl, Sarah, that I remember from 15 years ago. Last time I saw it. Exactly. But I mean, that's the thing. That's a male failing, and I actually did. That was another app chapter in my book. I think it was the last chapter where I say thirst is the worst. Where I talk about, because everybody always talks about game and pickup. That's just getting sluts, and it's not noble, and whatever excuses you want to throw as to why you don't want to go talk to a girl and maybe go sleep together. But doing that has so many external benefits. First off is you're no longer thirsty. If you know I can get any girl or I can get a girl, then when you see this one in front of you, you're not going to do something stupid. Like Rich even talks about that with his business, how like a 15-year business partner, and because of like a little bit of thirst, the guy kind of screwed over 15 years of work. It was a huge expensive lesson for Rich. How many guys have had like marriages fall apart because their best friend slept with their wife? Same thing. Like all you need is that little bit of thirst, and a guy will screw over something that you can spend decades working on. So I think that's the strongest case for all these guys that are talking about, oh, I don't want to ever do pickup. I don't want to be inauthentic. I'm like, dude, do you want to be the thirsty guy that ruins your empire? Well, then get on it.
Well, like I lost a couple of good friends, long-term friends, just because like we used to hang out a lot during the pickup days.
Yeah.
And then everyone kind of settled down and found like a main chick, and they were going with that. And then as long as those chicks came in with the pickup, it was fine. But once those relationships ended and they went out and they found new ones that didn't know about the pickup shit,
yeah,
suddenly they don't want, the girls didn't want their guys to hang around me after I became single again. Because they know exactly what's going to happen.
They'll be fine. It puts the onus on them to perform. Yeah, it's one of those things, and it's annoying because you kind of can see it. Like once you're on the other side, like everybody always starts from, like you said, was it 5 to 7 years behind women when it comes to adulting or sexual relationships or whatever?
Well, I think actually 10 years in most cases, just because like you have a very large schism there. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is like some guy who's just doing his thing starts to become successful with women when he's like 14, 15, some even earlier.
Yeah.
And they just get started a lot earlier practicing.
Right.
And then you have the guy who started running game when he found like this space when he's 26 and he's just started. And at that point, like the girls in his peer group have been getting hit on by guys since they were like 13.
Yeah, they have so much experience.
Like, it's not to name drop it, but there's this World of Warcraft thing from back when Molten Core first opened. You have a video it's on YouTube, and it was streamed on Twitch, called Apes Run to MC. And it's essentially a guild of 40 people who are trying to get to an instance. And they have like probably a couple of hundred people who are planning to wipe them.
Mm-hmm.
And to just watch these 40 guys just wipe like 3, 4, 5 raids, it was just incredible to watch. But you have to keep in mind, these guys have been playing this one game like 15 hours a day for like 10, 15 years, and they're playing against people who probably haven't played this game in 10, 15 years.
Jeez.
So there's just a huge skill gap.
Right.
And it's the same thing in everything else. Like, if you don't have the patience to stick with something long term, there's going to be a skill gap. If you're picking something up long after everyone else picks it up, you're going to have to work that much harder to catch up.
Yeah, or
And
be that much
eventually you're going
systematic.
to catch up. But you have to beat them in something, because they have, let's say they have 10 years more experience than you. How can you close all that experience? That's 3,600 some days. That's Steven Pinker, I think it is, like 10,000 hours of practice. They already have it.
Right. And you're starting from
But
zero.
once you get to 8 or 10,000, they might be at 20,000. But at that point, the skill gain slows down so monumentally that they're not going to have that much of an edge. It will be there, but it will be small.
Yeah.
And women don't consciously learn this shit. They just see things happen with them, with their girlfriends. They watch their shows. Like, if you watch the movie Mean Girls,
Right.
you learn so much about how girls socially interact.
I'll have to add that one
Because
to
you
the list.
really want to... Well, you really want to look at how girls interact when they're like 13, 14, 15. Because it doesn't change that much. It just becomes more refined. Same thing
Pretty
with
much.
guys, though. Like, when you're like 13, you beat the shit out of each other. But when you're in a corporate boardroom 15 years later, you can't exactly reach over the table and put the chairman of the board in a headlock.
Give him the tombstone. Oh, out my head, dude. Backyard wrestling with corporate. That'd be hilarious. Yeah,
So it just comes down sticking with it. It's the most important thing. Stick with it and then just work on it.
And again, that's the I love that about the 8-bit generation, because there was literally, you could die on something 100 times. You get zero positive feedback whatsoever. All you knew is that there's a way through it. It's possible to do. And if I just stick with it, try new things, maybe experiment, maybe I have to go back, maybe I screwed something up earlier, you'll eventually get there. But doing that without that dopamine drip, I think that's a big hurdle now. Like, a guy will go 50 approaches. You just tell them, do 50 approaches so you learn how not to be scared to walk up to a stranger and strike up a conversation. They do it twice. And automatically a girl didn't just throw her vagina at them and they're like, yeah, this isn't for me. I'm not liking it. And it's a lot of me when I'm talking to people is about getting them to understand that you're just not going to get a dopamine hit on this stuff, not for a long time. And you just have to be okay with that and enjoy the process itself. Like, if you're feeling uncomfortable about something, that's something new. You're supposed to be uncomfortable. That's your brain's way of telling you, I don't like this. Let's go back to eating Cheetos. And you're like, you don't want to do that.
I do think, though, for a lot of us, like, this scarcity, like, how many games did you get a year as a kid? Like, if I was lucky, I got like 3. One for Christmas, one for my birthday, and then one for something else.
Like, you saved up when mowing lawns or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, or something, and you get those 3 games, and each one of those had to keep you going for like 4 months. And when you bought a bad one, I remember being so angry because the game was bad and broken. It's like, oh, I just wasted all that money. I'm going to have to wait for another 6 months to play something else.
I remember the title. That was Captain Skyhawk.
Because you used to kind of like trade back and forth games with friends too. But like now, every kid can just switch to a new game on his mobile for free all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There are always like free to play games on like the PS Pro store or whatever. So you can always find something new if whatever now isn't giving you that dopamine hit. And I think just you don't never develop the discipline to wait until the dopamine hits you. If you're not getting it immediately, then you're just going to quit and find another game.
Yeah. And unfortunately, life doesn't have other games. Like interactions, human interaction, that's a solid single game. Multiple people, you can always move on to a different girl. So in that case, it's good. But yeah, those skills you learn there, you can't just put down this girl and pick up this one. This one hates autism, but this one loves it. So I'll go hit on her. It's like, no, man, girls don't like autism in general. So you're just gonna have to learn not to be autistic if you want to get better at this stuff. Like you said, you got to practice, got to accept failure, got to practice some more. 10,000 hours to get at least 80% of what a natural hit 10 years back, and that's fine.
Oh, it's like you remember that thing I mentioned on, I think it was last show or the show before,
Yeah.
where I mentioned the fact that I always ask myself like 3 questions about a guy. Like, would I be comfortable bringing him to a corporate event? Would I be comfortable bringing him to a family event? And what was the third one? Would I be comfortable just sitting at a bar drinking with this guy, with my male friends group for an entire day?
Right.
If I answer no to any of those questions, then it's probably not going to be something I want to stick with. And with girls, it's kind of similar, because you want to ask yourself, okay, would I be okay with having this chick around at a corporate event? Is she going to get angry with my boss? Would I be comfortable bringing this girl to a family event, or is she going to start some shit? Would I be comfortable with, just spending time with this one chick for 12 hours without wanting to claw my own eyes and ears out? I think just answering those simple questions helps you decide who you want in your life, but you have to develop that abundance mindset in order for that to be able to ask those questions.
That practice, like you can't build abundance. You have to build abundance. You can't just, you can fake it to some extent while you're practicing, but at some point you have to kind of reach it. And again, practice, repetition, failure after failure. You have to enjoy the process because you're not going to get any dopamine hits on it. It's just the way it works. And I feel sad because parents aren't teaching this. My parents never taught me this. My mom never cared what I strove to. My stepdad didn't even use my name until I was 18 when we almost got into a fight. So how can I can picture guys in that same situation. Dad got, divorced and mom took the kids to a different state. She just wants them to love her and not be like that asshole ex-husband of hers. And they're literally not even given these tools, and you kind of have to learn them yourself. Meanwhile, the natural guy with 2 good parents and the dad who's not, a trad cuck or whatever you want to call them. It's you literally have to build yourself up. Remember that statue of, I can't remember who did it, but it's the Greek statue where he's carving himself out of stone and the bottom half of it is just a slab and the top half is
that one.
Yeah. It's kind of we're in that position right now, but we don't have that same Grecian god nobility to it because it's literally guys just wearing feather boas and top hats going out to talk about game or whatever version we have now.
The saddest thing, though, to me, is that it doesn't take all that much to be get towards the top 30%.
Right.
Because if you go out and look, most guys are complete slobs.
Yeah. Unkempt, not shaven, nothing. Dressed like crap.
And you don't really need to go to the lengths. I thought that was the cocaine fueled days of Sphere Twitter, when you had to build your legacy, you had to build your spirituality, you had to become self-actualized, you had to become a millionaire with a Lambo, you had to be at least 220 pounds and jacked,
240 now,
ideally with 8-pack abs. And you had to be that by Tuesday. And I remember I sat there just tallying up, how many hours will it take the average dude to get through this? Is it realistic? And once I came to know it's not, once I realized that, it was okay, this is all vaporware. It's just someone selling shit.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's
the only...
You make it impossible to achieve.
The only course I would buy is Rob's.
Which one was Rob's?
Rob says from...
I just don't remember the course. I know where you're going with this. I don't remember it.
This guy earned $10,000. Banks hate him. This guy...
that one.
Robbing the bank.
Yeah. No, this guy earned $10,000 in an hour's worth of work, and so can you. It's good. I like that, though. I like his kind of very cynical approach to this stuff. It keeps you sharp. It's he's not insecure about his life. So if you're the kind of person who's trying to sell crap like that, the only people are so insecure about their life, they don't want to call it out because then that opens them to getting called out. But that's what I like. Once you get a guy who's self-actualized to some extent, he has no problems calling out nonsense. He goes, "This is nonsense," and they'll throw something back at him, and he won't care because he's already got his ducks in a row. But yeah, and I think the reason
I
for
think
what you
that
were saying, that impossible to meet standard, I think that's because guys then get an excuse to fail. Like, dude, I'm never going to make it as an astronaut. Well, if you're not an astronaut by Tuesday, then why are you even bothering us? Oh, okay, good, good, good. So it's impossible. Not my fault. The world's just out to get me. Here's my money. Let me learn how to do. What are they teaching on courses now? I don't even know.
no, I don't pay attention anymore. Like I have a very curated group of people I read on Twitter now. But I think I kind of like the little group because everyone is more or less comfortable with where they are in life, so you don't get any of that pointless insecurity.
Oh, the bravado. You don't like those? The chest puffing, bopping their
I
head
will
at you
say
as
though,
they talk like a chicken.
I missed the best opportunity to troll Jack Napier. Now I'm kind of upset at myself.
Oh, why? What'd he do? I mean, what didn't he do?
No, he asked me to DM if I was Dutch, and I responded and gave him an answer, but I should have just answered him in Dutch to screw with his mind.
I like that. You're very good at poisoning the well. People don't know if you're Dutch, Norwegian, Chinese, white guy. Did he live in the States? Does he live in Asia now? Does he live in Europe? Is he a FSB spy? Is he CIA? Is he just a contractor? Are you Edward Snowden? Is that why you're having all this obfuscation? And your answer to all that is duh. Duh. I like it too. And then I could tell you tested me too, because you'll always give me some little bit of like private information that's not like, it doesn't really narrow down who you'd be, but it's something you would definitely know that I'm starting to blab about if somebody had told it. I'm like very, very clever. And I don't even think you know you're doing it. I think you just do that. Although I do it too, so I can't
Well, I
fault you
don't
for
know
it.
that I'm doing it. I don't know that I'm doing it now, but it used to be like a conscious choice just from like corporate life
Yeah.
that you kind of want to know how the social sphere and who's talking to who through non-official channels, and dropping something with a variation on it to a lot of different people, and then see if you bring up a topic where it would be natural to volunteer that information at a later date.
Right.
Like, how has that been passed through the office? Because then you start to know, like, okay, if I want this reaction out of accounting, I could talk to Phyllis because she talks to some guy over in accounting who's sleeping with some chick who's one of the accountants or whatever. So that
Right.
way the information will come in there.
And if you guys don't know in chat, what he's referring to is something called the grapevine. Like every company knows there's formal channels for information and there's informal channels. But you really have to have like a systemized approach to find out where the informal channels are, or just a lot of tenure. There's like a real skill to this.
No, I think it's just a useful skill, and I think it's also, it helps with that whole keeping the mystery thing too, because you don't want people to figure you out ever. Especially not women. And it's kind of like a lot of this game shit tends to become part of your natural social ability.
And thank God for that.
And part of game is just you never give her all the information. Like the worst move a guy makes on a first date, he sits there and he lists off his CV and his hopes and his dreams and everything. So by the time the girl leaves, she's like, okay, that guy was boring. There's like no depth to him. I know everything about him now.
I think it's just the challenge. That's
And
the
just-
thing.
I mean, they want to figure you out, but you can never let them completely. So every once in a while, you do something completely out of character, and you see how they react. Kind of like the same thing with like chess players. I remember they did a study because in Russia, because they had a lot of good chess players, and they were like, are chess players more intelligent than other people because they're able to play the game at such a high level?
Right.
And what they figured out is that they're not necessarily hyper intelligent, but what they have is they have an ability to recognize patterns as they form on the board. Because at this point, every play is more or less known to chess players.
Right.
So I remember like when Kasparov was beaten by Deep Blue. He was beaten because there was a bug in the software or something that made it do a move that he didn't recognize as part of the pattern he figured the machine was playing out.
Really? I didn't know that.
So he made a wrong move, because he was flustered and he had no idea what to do. And he made a wrong move, and the machine was playing the pattern he identified, but because it had that bug in the software, it threw him off enough that he made a crucial mistake. And I think that pattern recognition is something that you build as you do something over a long period of time, because you get such an internalized memory bank of everything that you kind of see situations forming before they do. It's like you had the thing with, like, is it a logistical problem or is it a feelings problem?
Yeah, is it a shit
Once you
test?
identify what problem it is,
Uh-huh.
and at that point, you can kind of play it out, and you're not doing that subconsciously. You're not doing that consciously. And Rolo said the same thing. Like, when my girl throws a shit test at me, I don't like go like, okay, that's a shit test. I can do A, B, C, or D. It's not like I have a multiple choice thing in his head. It's just like, you react naturally to that situation.
Yeah, just like riding a bike.
Because it's become ingrained.
Yeah, you don't think left pedal, right pedal, left foot in front of the right. You just point your bike and go. It's the same. That's everything, working out. The idea of muscle memory. When you go to the gym, you're not thinking, all right, tuck my elbows in, keep this up there. You've done the same movement so many damn times. You don't even think about it anymore. But that's kind of the practice thing. And like you said, 10,000 hours. Yeah, so maybe you didn't start until you were 26. Fine, whatever. You can get 80% of the way there and get caught up to people for the most part. Yeah, you may not be that top 1% guy who gets like the best girl ever or the guy who gets the Lamborghini, but I don't think people even want, like, I know supercar guys are going to argue with me this. I don't think people want Lamborghinis. I think people want the idea of having a Lamborghini. Like the idea you can throw $250,000 on a supercar and sit there and be the guy with the supercar. Like that's why there's so many people who rent Lamborghinis and stand in front of it and take Instagram pictures with the keys in their hand. Or one thing my brother did, you're going to love this one. So he was just walking around in Vegas. I can't remember what it was. And he thought it'd be awesome. He would walk by this, I can't remember what it was, a Ferrari or something like that. And he just took out his normal keys for his car. I can't remember what it was at the time. And he just stood there as if he was trying to put the key into the door. Took pictures on that. I just started laughing. I'm like, it's damn brilliant. The social media was just full of him with supercars. If only he had sold practical soap.
I do think the whole thing comes down to, like, people want the idea of things. Like, people want to own the idea of owning a supercar. They don't want to pay the bills on a supercar or the insurance.
Yep.
People would love to have like a huge house to live in, but they really don't want to pay the property taxes, the insurance, and the maintenance fees on that thing.
Yeah, or to clean the damn thing.
And I think that's where you can. I think that's kind of where you can start telling is that the house, for instance, let's say you buy a $500,000 house.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the big cost with that house. That's all the costs are going to kind of creep up on you during ownership.
Right.
So
opportunity and otherwise.
Well, let's say you need $500,000 to buy the house. It may end up costing you 1.2 over a lifetime. So at that point, do you really want to spend 1.2 million for a house where you use like half the rooms?
Probably not. I mean, you buy it as a social flex. You want to show off to people how nice your house is. And they don't care because they're too busy flexing on their own. It's like being at the gym. You want to have the best workout gear. Everybody else is so insecure or staring at themselves in the mirror that they don't care what you're doing. And it's a freeing thing.
Like, sometimes I've been tempted to go to the gym naked to work out just to see if anyone would notice it.
Oh, I bet you'd probably make it quite a ways. I have no doubts. Actually, I will say the one thing I do notice. Oh, sorry, go. I'm just going to rant about the gym.
Well, you know the Jurassic Park meme where the guy's like, he screams something and it's like, oh, look, nobody cares.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's the best reflection of living in a large community. If you live in a very, very small community, that switches because then everybody cares.
Mm-hmm.
But if you live in like a big city, you can more or less do whatever the fuck you want. And nobody cares, or most of them don't even notice it.
Yeah. Everybody's living their own lives. I think that's awesome. I love that anonymity in the crowd vibe. That's what I really like about the cities. But then, and guys don't take that as like it's a freeing experience. Like a lot of guys worried about worries of abandonment. So if I talk to this girl, she shoots me down. It taps into that caveman DNA. Like if Cave Susie shot you down, you're basically going to die sterile unless you kill an entire tribe and take their women. So most guys have kind of an aversion to getting rejected. So I get that. But if you're in a city, you can have a girl throw a drink in your face, walk to the other side of the bar, and a girl who has no idea about any of that, and just like you're starting again from scratch. So it's like,
Yeah, she won't even ask you like, why is your face wet and why do you have an olive up your nose?
exactly, won't even care. But that's the thing. We have such a freeing atmosphere right now to maximize these things. We're also at a situation where we have people least likely to capitalize on it or even to put the effort to get there. And I wish I was intellectual dork web where I could like, well, technically that's because of this. I don't know why it happens. I don't know why the top 20% is literally, you just have to show up on the first day and they'll let you into that club. Like, I don't understand the concept, but that's fine. Why is a stupid question anyway? It's just navel gazing. Just know that I may be like, I'm doing pretty good as a Twitch streamer right now. I don't even know what I'm doing. I haven't played half the games in like 10 years and I'm doing all right because I just showed up. Same thing as you. You just wanted to do 52 dates in a year. You just showed up and started doing it and it worked. And now you're like, out of all like the day gamer pickup guys in the sphere on Twitter or whatever, you're the only one that's never been called out for not actually sleeping with girls. You know what I mean? I know I'm jabbing on Riv again here, but I guess there's a few other.
I've actually been called out a couple of times, but it's just a matter of like the biggest thing though, I think with me is just because when you're anon, the only thing they can attack are things you legit give them to attack you on.
Yeah.
And it's something like there's a battle rapper I listen to on occasion, a friend of Ed Lattimore's called Real Deal.
Okay.
And the guy's like the whitest guy ever. From Boston or something, or not from Pittsburgh. And in one of his battles, he was like, who do you think told that guy that I'm a teacher? I did, because like you guys had nothing to do for me. So he leaked his own private information just so they'd have something to attack him on to make the battles better.
Oh, that's funny. I like that. That's nice.
And for me at least, it's just I think people do call outs because I think people like to be the ones who calls out someone, because if they can actually prove you're a fraud, that will give them clout. It's kind of like Highlander, but for autistics on Twitter.
Take a drink, everybody.
And it's like, well, call out Twitter is like the dumbest thing, because it's like this idea that it's like fucking ogres and who's the king of the ogres. It's like you have to kill the ogre king, then you become the next ogre king. And it's like, isn't that like the dumbest thing ever?
Yeah. Well, of course it is,
Because,
because it's missing the second half of the equation. Like you be in a position of a trusted authority and then call out people. Like that's the point of it. It's a filtering mechanism, but they're trying to do it from the bottom, which you haven't established yourself. So all you're doing is just dragging the crabs back down to the bottom of the bucket so nobody can escape.
And it also caters to, like, it's, I'm not sure if you've read this, but you know who do very well in interviews?
Huh.
Sociopaths. You know who tend to do very poorly and create a lot of problems at their actual job?
Sociopaths.
So, like, the whole hiring process is engineered in a way that almost guarantees you that sociopaths will get hired and competent people are less likely to get hired.
Right.
And it's kind of like the same thing with Twitter. Like, I like the platform. I could take it or leave it at this point. I just think it's fun to go on and troll people on occasion.
Yeah.
But for me, you have people who are good at Twitter but can't produce content. And then you have people who are good at producing content but kind of suck on Twitter.
Right.
And if I want advice from someone, I want advice from the guy who can actually create content about that topic. I don't want the advice from the guy who's great at Twitter.
Yeah. Which, and here's
I think that was kind of
like
like
an example with the spelling mistakes. That's a perfect example of it. Like it's not content. It's just like a Twitter trick. But, and I'll stop cutting you off here in a sec. That's the thing. That's how Trump figured out his too. It's like you say, and I hate this. If you say something that you know is factually incorrect, you'll get a ton of engagement because people love to correct you and do that little bit of gatekeeping in themselves. You idiot, don't you know you're not supposed to do this? I call it the Pat Stedman effect or the Rivlino effect now. Say something so ridiculous that everybody's talking about it just to correct you. And it looks great for you because now everybody knows who you are and some people stick around. But it's also bad, like you said, because you can't make content. You're literally putting out the opposite of good content, but it works really well.
It's also on Twitch. There are channels dedicated to people. Well, not dedicated, but they're really bad at the games they choose to play.
You're on one
People
now.
are watching it and people just love watching it just to give people shit in chat.
Huh. There we go. Yeah, Corey has it right
actually
down
saw
here.
Well, at one point, I actually saw I remember this was back in the forum days, but I saw like a 200 post forum thread arguing what was the key combination for Liu Kang's fireball in Mortal Kombat, and nobody even thought to go and let's just boot up the game and see.
They just argue with each other incessantly. But it's
and I think that's what, like Corey said, engagement for the sake of engagement. And I think that's what a lot of them were doing. They were building these followings, but they had no idea what they were going to do with them. It's like the guy who has like 10,000 women on his Facebook, but doesn't try to sleep with any of them.
Yeah. Or hey, here's a 90s reference. The first time I got into web design, everybody always does the same thing where they build this amazing site, the infrastructure's good, the menus look slick, and then you're like, all right, now what do I put in this damn thing? And you realize, like, okay, I have zero content to put on this stupid website, but the Flash introduction is damned amazing. It's like that for everything. I'll probably still have a GeoCities site out there. Is GeoCities even still on? Flaming skull gifts, cool menu system. It's got that like gritty, rusted metal look that everybody loved in the late 90s. Oh, yeah.
I think that's why kind of like why Facebook beat out MySpace.
Uh-huh.
Because MySpace is a good example of why you shouldn't let everybody dress themselves, so to speak.
Oh, you're talking about how Facebook made it very standardized looked and MySpace allowed you to change everything on your site look?
Yeah, and the sites were impossible to deal with, man.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, the automatic MIDI files playing. It's like, dude, I didn't want to download Whereas. I just wanted to see what One Direction was up to. Damn it.
Tons of flash, like your color scheme basically says fuck the colorblind.
Mm-hmm. I know Maddox.
There's something to be said though. Like I know there was like an old photo software I used to use back in like the 90s. Right. They actually had a dedicated part of their troubleshooting guide that was abusive to user.
What do you mean?
Because the software was so screwed up that some of the users actually felt that it was directly abusive to them.
That's awesome.
I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about in the topic of this chat, though, is like a lot of the shit we used to play when we were kids, it was difficult to get through, skill-wise.
Right.
It required a lot of patience, a lot of pattern recognition, and sometimes there were bugs there that made it even harder. Or sometimes it just didn't work the way it was supposed to, but you still kind of powered through it because your alternative was to spend like another 12 months playing Super Mario Brothers 2.
Yeah, again. Actually, yeah, now that you put it
like
that makes sense.
So I think the 90s kids and the like 80s and 90s kids kind of got that kind of burned into us that you're not good by default. You actually suck by default, and you have to put in a lot of time and effort to actually become half decent. Versus the current, I've been told I'm a special snowflake all my life generation, and they're like, oh my god, I died in a video game. What the fuck? Dog shit game, I'm leaving.
And it gets even worse than that, because remember this when you used to play, like if you were at home, you had your buddies, and you were like the best Street Fighter player or the best Mortal Kombat player, and then you went to an arcade or to a tournament once, you're like, this is going to be good, and then you ran into other players, and you realized that you thought you were a king of the shit mountain, and then you just get trounced. So like, early internet stuff, same thing, yeah.
Remember my first Mortal Kombat tournament? I just got the crap kicked out of me.
Mm-hmm.
And even worse, like with the Tekken, you had a couple of characters there that could literally take you from 1 to 0 with like 1 20-point combo.
Yeah.
And when you come to those tournament, the guys, they're just pulling like these combos back to back, and you're like, okay, I can do a fireball, I think.
You got one shot at it, but if your timing is off, the game is already over. Yeah, but then you
And I think
realize, like,
that
as good
kind
as
of,
you thought you were, if you're not as good as you thought you were. You're good as a small fish or a big fish in a small pond, but real world, not so much. So let's give you that second layer of understanding failure.
well, like I used to think I was pretty good at chess because I beat everyone around me, every kid in my class, like my teachers and everything. And then I went to a real chess tournament and I lost for like 6 months straight.
Ooh.
Because then you start to play against players who are actually good at it.
Yeah. I got to do that. Anyways,
They
I guess
have a
we
home
should.
gym and you're in there lifting. Have a home gym, you're in there lifting, and you're like, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. I just did like a 250-pound squat, and you walk into a commercial gym and you see Brian Shaw over there like squatting like 750 pounds. You're like, oh fuck.
Yeah, but that's fine. Like I said, I enjoy the process. I like that humbling experience. It's nice to kind of accept the fact that you're not going to be the best in everything. Just build your own talent stacks, whatever. I guess we should wrap this up, though. Rule 0 is going to start in about 10 minutes. I believe it's Rolo's channel today, is it not?
Oh yeah, and it's a real new topic. I don't think we've ever talked. Well, I'm not going to be on there, but I think that we never talked about direct versus indirect game before. Have you ever heard of those things? Have that ever been a topic?
I don't think it has. I know we've talked about it briefly, usually as a segue to start dunking on RSD, which I think is the second drinking game that we have. So yeah, if you guys don't know, the Red Morning drinking game is every time we mention autism or a spot of the tism, you take a drink. Every time on Rule 0, we dunk on RSD or Roosh, or then you take a drink. And you'll be loaded on each one of these ones.
No, I actually passed out like halfway into a Rule 0 broadcast once because I had this drinking game where like every time Rolo says hypergamy, I do a shot.
I do one where every time there should have been a period in his monologue, I take a shot if he doesn't use it. I last 10 minutes.
If you want to know the real drinking game that will get you killed though, is take a shot whenever John drops an F-bomb.
I like that. All right, guys. Anyways, for the people here who are just on Twitch, I guess let's do the link thing because people may not know who you are. Now we're on a different platform. Throw out the Black Label Logic link. If you guys want to see what Carl's talking about and knows what he's doing, he's actually got a blog on this, Black Label Logic. He's also
I can't put shit in chat, but I will put it in our private chat and just put that in there.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah, I didn't bother signing up. Well, I didn't have time to sign up.
Oh, it's fine. You don't need to. blacklabellogic.com. Again, he's got more writing there than you can take a dump on. Like on just about every topic. And if you like that stuff, he's also got 2 books out, Gendernomics 1 and Gendernomics 2. Really awesome works. They bring Adam Smith to sexual dynamics. I think that's a fair way to describe them, as well as Jack Napier, who's in the chat. Jack, throw your link in there. He does the audiobook for Gendernomics in case you don't want to sit there and read like a pleb. So check his stuff out. Honestly, you guys are going to love it. And if you don't know who Carl is, and I don't know why you don't, and if you're learning him for the first time, you're going to fall in love with him. I guarantee it. Just don't tell him nice things because he'll just dunk on you for it. All right. On that note, so we're going to be at Rule 0. That's going to be on Rolo's channel on YouTube. I guess I'll throw the link in here as well. It's almost like refreshing when I have to like do the talk about what's going on thing. I haven't had to do this in this show in a while. Everybody was kind of known.
No, hopefully we'll get a new audience. But it would be interesting to get all the guys from the YouTube channel over here. I don't know. Yeah, wait, you can't do like a dual stream, can you?
No, well, I can dual. No, I can't. I have to. If I do it on Twitch, I have to leave it there for 24 hours. Then I can download it, move it to wherever. I could technically multi-stream if there's no income attached to it, but I'm still not sure entirely how to use that. I'm looking more into the Twitch terms of service and their stipulations. But that's fine. Honestly, I like this better because this is like our notepad. Like YouTube has a certain level of polish to it, which I know is ridiculous to sound, but This one I can literally just pop on like Factorio. And then, hey guys, the episode today on Estar Villa's thing was this MGTOW topic. And then we just kind of shoot the shit and it's super engaging with people. Like, I think if we ever get you on here, I think you'd like it. Because you know how you were talking about how you had topics and like I'm already repeating myself. Yeah. It's like you can come in here and there'll be a bunch of guys asking you questions about articles, this and that. And it'd probably help you actually come up with new content if that's something you're interested in. Plus, everybody's definitely curious if you're as good as you say you are in World of Warcraft. But I don't know if you want to connect those two.
I would never stream off that playing that account. It's not that hard to peg down who I am if you see my account in play.
Oh yeah, it's like I'm never gonna let my Xbox username out in the public. So there's just way too much stuff out there. I'm like, no. I think I even used that on like the Tucker Max forums way back in the day.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. Ooh is deed. All right. Anyways, we'll leave you guys to it, and we'll see you there in like 10 minutes.